Hi, I'm Brad. I'm an artist and drawer. I'm here working on some projects at Azule.
Hi, Brad. Okay.
I started these two out of a series where I'm reimagining Boticelli's Birth of Venus, and what I'm doing is imposing the queer bodies as Venus. So here we have an elder radical fairy, trans woman, and me, a non-binary person, and I'm going to also do more featuring all different kinds of bodies, just kind of accepting the divinity of the queer body and the beauty of the queer body.
Could I have your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Brad Silk.
And what is your artistic discipline?
I consider myself still an illustrator. I went to college to be an illustrator, but I use oil paint, dry pastel, and now I just started plasticine clay figures as well.
Excellent. And when in your life did you decide to embark on the artistic journey?
Sort of always. I have creative parents, and I actually went to college to the same college that my mom did summer programs at. So it was sort of always in my genes. But I really focused on art when I moved to New York in 2007. And then this series of painting the queer body as deities and historical figures started during the pandemic.
Oh, excellent. And what is your subject matter usually, or I guess if you have some underlying purpose or theme of your work generally?
Yeah, my main purpose is really to uplift the queer body. I've dealt with a lot of body dysmorphia as well as gender dysphoria, and was really plagued with depression and anxiety around those things for years and years. And I really wanted to focus on queer bodies and all forms of them, and what does that actually even mean, because any body can be queer. So I like to paint portraits and have a variety and different form.
We've had a lot of dancers here who do residencies, and many of them are also approaching dance from a perspective of inclusivity of all body types and body shapes. In particular, there was one who was actually working on a thesis or dissertation about injured dancers and how imperfect bodies still belong in dance. And would you say that possibly in the visual arts world that you are seeking to fulfill the same kind of mission?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would love to have all people be witnessed and be seen as beautiful. And there's so much that we have right now in our culture to disparages and outcasts any kind of difference.
You had mentioned that you kind of referencing forms and themes from classical art. I wonder if you could speak to that.
Yeah, so I kind of came to a direct artistic interest through comic books and kind of like superhero figures, but also through Greek and Roman mythologies. And there are many comic books and movies and cartoons that surround those elements as well. And so I've always been fascinated by these, like the deification of figures who may or may not be mortal, and ideas that are powerful, that they can change the world. And I'm interested in imposing the queer consciousness and body and form into those deifications.
Right, like the works of David or Botticelli being the canon, if you will, that deified visual construct, and then just sort of imposing. Do you see this as kind of a subversive act, or kind of like an inclusive act, or how do you?
Yeah, I think it's subversive because I am kind of bastardizing the original intent. Um, but also, I would ask whose original intent, because there were like Caravaggio who painted these same elements and often modeled for his figures, and that artist himself was at least bi, if not gay. Um, and a lot of the painters of that time were, and a lot of the models, or all of the models, were men, or those in male forms, and then the artist would have to interpret them as womanly or feminine, or kind of assume what the vagina looked like because they would not know.
Right, kind of like gender.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, in Shakespeare's day, is it not true that there were, all the women were played by men and all this kind of thing? So,
Yeah.
And so, do you do a lot of art residency programs?
This is actually my first art residency. I did have a stay on Short Mountain in Tennessee right before this, to focus on this series, but this is the first official art residency.
Okay. I do have a question about live models on Zoom for art. During the pandemic, we have lost, I guess, access to that, and just any thoughts on how that works for artists?
Yeah, I think it kind of features differently. The live model is really exciting for life drawing, and like a room for engagement. But I mean, for my personal interest, I like working from photo, because I want to try to achieve a good amount of detail. And even from Zoom, it creates a kind of comfortability, and access to the model, because they can just be where they are. They don't have to travel, or I don't have to travel and bring all my things. But I do still participate in Zoom life drawing, and have run some through a group that I'm part of, Queer Anga, which is a wellness collective in New York City, and we've done some events including Zoom life drawing.
Very cool. And so, what have Azule provided for your experience so far?
Yeah, I chose Azule for it being like up in this gorgeous, lush forest. I just wanted to escape New York City and thrive in this green forest, and wanted to have some time to just really focus on creating something, and not have the daily distractions get in the way.
As a New Yorker, how is your experience of the rural? Because we've had people from New York, and it runs the range from I have to go home early, it's too quiet, to I love it here. And I'm just wondering how it suits you, considering the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I personally escape the city a lot to go upstate into the Catskills and spend time, but never have I been able to do that while also pursuing artistic projects. It's always been separate and just fun with friends. This one's going to be interesting, because also with COVID happening still, with less artists being at Azule during this, there will be days and maybe even weeks where I'm alone here, besides Camille.
Yeah.
And it will be probably lonely, probably quiet, but will be an experience no matter what.
Do you have any idea of whether that will affect your creativity or processor output in any way?
Yeah, I would say that I've only been here for 3 days now. It already has because I've had like moments where I couldn't do this at home, where I would have like breakfast, 2 to 4 hours of painting and working on art, lunch, and then another 4 hours, and then dinner, and then usually I would have to do something. But now I'm just here again, so if the muse hits at 8 p.m., I'm back down here painting. If it hits before I go to bed, I might try and do something. So it's kind of gives that like flexibility throughout the day. No matter what else is happening, I can actually just like focus on it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Any final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to exploring Azule more. I've kind of crept through all of the rooms, but there's kind of an endless amount to like discover around all the little gems of architecture and all the trails around the property. I did go up a little bit into the mountain, but it's been a rainy 3 days, so I do want to try and take some trails, maybe go up to the peak, and do something that's not too heady, as painting can often be, and do something a little bit more body.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah.